To say that Boeing's Starliner program has not gone as planned would be the understatement of the century. The Starliner spacecraft, which NASA included in the Commercial Crew program alongside the Crew Dragon from SpaceX, has failed to meet expectations in just about every way. The spacecraft was supposed to have already been taking human astronauts to and from the International Space Station, but was completely lost on its way to the destination. Why was this possible with a big name like Boeing? Let's find out more about this interesting subject in today's episode of SpaceX Fans. The Starliner program has been an absolute disaster in so many ways. It's actually painful to remember that NASA has dumped $4.2 billion of taxpayer money to Boeing to build the spacecraft. In addition, the agency paid a $185 million charge in the third quarter earnings to pay for the second setback on the new Starliner crew capsule, bringing their out-of-pocket cost on the troubled program to $595 million since 2019. However, at this point, it's still lost in the middle of the road and far away from its destination. The long, toilsome journey of Starliner started after NASA selected the Boeing Starliner in 2010, along with SpaceX Crew Dragon, for the Commercial Crew Transportation Capability Contract Round to develop a new generation of spacecraft for transporting astronauts and cargo. These two companies and NASA's Commercial Crew program make an interesting pair, the older established Boeing and young SpaceX. However, as you're aware, their outcomes are ironic. In May 2020, two NASA shuttle veterans became first to ride SpaceX's Dragon capsule to the ISS, and 2 months later, to return safely home. Since then, SpaceX has regularly carried astronauts to the station. SpaceX's reusable space capsules and rockets have saved NASA billions of dollars. In contrast, Boeing's latest launch, called the Orbital Flight Test 2, isn't its first attempt at an uncrewed demonstration of Starliner. The OFT-1 mission in December 2019 literally fell short when software glitches caused the capsule to burn through propellant after launch. It went into orbit about 155 miles off the ground, but it never reached the ISS, which orbits much higher up. Boeing addressed the issue and planned another try last August, but during pre-launch prep, engineers discovered problems with the oxidizer valves in Starliner's propulsion system, and the launch was scrubbed. It wasn't until last month that Starliner managed to finally dock a spacecraft at the ISS. However, as we explained in another episode, the flight wasn't perfect. It was very nail-biting to watch the vehicle. What caused the Boeing Starliner to still not reach destination after such a long time? Well, first, these concerns about Boeing's leadership. Since Boeing bought out McDonnell Douglas in 1997, Boeing has been run by financial experts and accountants prioritizing profit over safety. This means that engineering teams are pressured from above to cut corners where seemingly acceptable. Sometimes cutting corners is okay and results in reduced expense without any degradation in the product, but other times it results in things like the 737 MAX crashes, and in the case of Starliner, the appearance of serious software issues that could have been fairly easily identified if they had simply just run a hardware-in-the-loop mission simulation prior to launch. As a result, Starliner's first orbital test flight was a failure after the software failed to understand what phase of flight it was in, wasting away fuel needed to rendezvous with the ISS. The second orbital flight attempt was due to happen last year, but has been postponed after 13 oxidizer valves in the Starliner vehicle malfunctioned. They've been able to reopen them, but they don't yet know the root cause and have since had to delay the second mission's launch. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that Boeing's cultural issues will change so long as the company's board of directors remains the same. The company will not be able to go in the right direction. Furthermore, Boeing goes slow because of their conservative philosophies. Boeing adopted the NASA philosophy of build it not to fail at all. And remember, NASA SLS has even been delayed at least 16 times, adding more than 5 years to the original 6-year schedule. And yet even NASA's spacesuit is behind schedule. On the other hand, Musk uses the get it in the air, if it fails, we'll figure it out what went wrong and fix it on the next one and the next one train of thought. SpaceX comes strutting into the scene, wide-eyed and optimistic. They want to take down space like they've taken down tech, fueled by competing companies nipping at their heels. They worked fast and fearlessly. Being bold was the only way to stand out. Recall 3 years after SpaceX's conception, and Musk said, "There's a silly notion that failure's not an option at NASA. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough." The rapid prototyping has allowed SpaceX to leapfrog all the dinosaurs in the industry, especially Boeing, who's still following the same old path for several decades ago. Boeing, like most space industry companies, has a lot of legacy baggage that SpaceX doesn't. Boeing and other companies have been relying on rockets designed decades ago, and as they work and were profitable, no one saw any need to engage in any expensive redesign. SpaceX doesn't have that baggage. As a recently formed company, the entire design is new, taking advantage of enormous leaps in computer technology, new material, and the ability to run simulated tests. So the pace of innovation is going to be much faster. Last but not least, Boeing's human resources are weak compared to SpaceX. Actually, for a long time, Boeing has lost scores of talented engineers to SpaceX. According to an analysis in LinkedIn data last year, at least 200 former Boeing workers are now at Elon Musk's space venture. Those who join SpaceX and endure the grueling 20-hour workdays are often driven by idealism. After all, Musk founded the company with the grandiose goal of establishing interplanetary travel that one day might save the human race. While Boeing focused on cash after then CEO Jim McNerney declared the company was done pursuing a once-in-a-generation moonshot that had long been its hallmark. Boeing's talent predicament has been years in the making. The Boeing Engineering Union's membership peaked at 22,985 early last decade as the plane maker tackles 787 production snarls. It's since tumbled by 38% as management shifted work to Florida and California. We wonder if Boeing is suffering from an engineering brain drain as potentially too many senior engineers have left the company recent years and recent hiring trends have not filled the gap, cautioned Ron Epstein, an analyst with Bank of America who was a Boeing scientist early in his career. Boeing has cut deeply into its workforce over the years to survive industry shock. It's often recalled workers and rehired retirees as consultants when the subsequent recovery left it short-handed. Besides, it wasn't just tangible projects that fell to cost cuts. Boeing slashed its overall research and development spending by 23% last year from the year earlier. For a company so heavily dependent on innovation, that's the equivalent of a farmer dining on his own seed corn that he needs to plant next year's crop with, said Richard Abulafia, an aerospace analyst with Teal Group. And that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Don't forget to share your ideas in the comment section below. Everyone's support will be the motivation for us to create more quality content. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.